Hello everyone, and welcome to the Borg Skeptic Show. This is the second episode, and today I've got two very special people with me. Firstly, the co-host, Skids the Clown, who has stepped in at the last minute to replace the Fad.
It's kind of the way I usually do it, is they give me the call at the last minute. I'm like the guy on the far end of the bench, and they slide me up once in a while.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. Would have been a little bit tough for me to handle it on my own. And we've also got the guest tonight, which is Justin Downing from the EA show. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Try to get this show rolling for you guys, and hopefully get some more subscribers. I sent out to all the groups. So if anybody's in here a fan of the EA show, let's come over here to Borg Skeptic and show some love.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming on. So tonight we're going to be talking about determinism, which is one of your favourite topics.
Gotta love it.
I'm still in the free will camp at the moment, but
I am in the undecided on this. I've heard this conversation many times. Maybe between the two of you going back and forth, you can finally sway me to one side or the other. So I'm definitely interested to see what your best arguments are going to be tonight.
Yeah, I'm hoping that by the end of the night, I might actually be a hard determinist. Who knows?
Challenging.
Yeah, so maybe start by explaining to the viewers what is hard determinism. What's the actual argument there?
Okay, so hard determinism is what would be a negation of free will. So you have three different distinct categories. One of them being libertarian free will, which is that how I define libertarian free will is the ability to make choices off of your own free volition. So you are able to change your mind about anything at any point in time. When you come to a decision, you are able to choose A rather than B or B rather than A. Compatibilism. Well, actually, let's tackle compatibilism last. Let's go straight to determinism. Determinism is the worldview that everything is a series of cause and effects in a physical, material world, and that if we are to be part of a physical world to where we just have a series of cause and effects, everything that makes you you, your decisions and morals and everything are inherently already determined, not predetermined. I don't want to get predestination mixed up with this. But when you look at the current moment that we're at, we can look into the past and see the dominoes that have fallen, and those dominoes being the causes and effects that led us to this exact moment right now. So it's a complete negation of any type of free will. You don't make choices at all. And then there's compatibilism. Compatibilism is kind of a mixture of both, but not holding the libertarian free will side. It's a different kind of will. It is it's the acceptance that our world has natural causes and effects and processes. And after those processes, anything that's made internally with you, even though they could be influenced through different experiences through lifetime, that even though you've made them inherently within your own mind, you made that choice. So there is some type of choice there. I subscribe to hard determinism because even if it was internal to me, it was still external through the faculties and the ways that I came to that choice.
Right.
So what's the impact of, making kind of a choice between whether you're a determinist or believe in free will?
So honestly, there's really not much of an impact at all. I still live my day as if I make choices. I believe there is an illusion of choice in our reality. I go to the Burger King drive-thru and I like Whoppers, and I choose a Whopper off of the menu. I don't sit there and wait for chemical reactions to happen inside of my brain to figure out what I'm going to choose off of that menu. I act as if I have the choice. But logically speaking, breaking everything down into a really boring, monotone, lecture, I was born with a brain that I didn't choose, in a country that has Burger Kings that I didn't choose, with processed meat that I didn't choose, with taste buds that like the taste of that processed meat that I didn't choose, and through experiences and influence of trying Whoppers previously in the past, and my taste buds in my brain reacting positively to them, I'm determined to pick a Whopper when I go to Burger King. And
so at that same point, because you're determined to do something just because of the series of events that led up to this point, does it give you a sense of where that decision no longer has meaning? Or do you feel that you still have meaning to a decision even though you're predetermined to make that same decision?
So what do you mean by meaning? Like some type of value factor?
As a value factor, as being a determinist does not equate to something, say, as nihilism. You're not going to basically say it doesn't matter what I do because everything I do is.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah. So no, I still hold what I say is moral values. I still hold, things that I like, things that I want. And that's why I say there's not this huge impact when taking hard determinism. It's basically just me after the fact, logically breaking things down to be as consistent as I can to explain how these things are happening. In the moment, I really don't care. This is what I want. This is what I think is good. This is what I think is bad. This is what I think is true. Even though I logically didn't choose anything, I'm still going to play along with the illusion of reality that I actually do have choices.
So following on from that, where does the ability to want, where does that fit in with hard determinism?
So what I would say is that previous influences and experiences help you, not help you, but determine what you want and what you don't want. If you were born in a extremist religious group, you may at 9 years old want your 72 virgins and want to go blow yourself up at 9 years old. But that is due to the geography and location that you were born in. That's due to the parental influences that raised you. Everything that you've been taught has given you what you want and what you don't want to do. So I don't want to do that because I have been raised in a society that tells me to value my life and to value the people around me. And I've come to the conclusion that humanism is the best way to interact with others on this, on this planet, in this reality. But I don't think that I chose that. I don't think that I chose to say that rape is bad or anything like that, or that I think whoppers are good. I think it's all based on external influences and experience, with all these things that I did not choose from birth. My existence, my geography, location, all that stuff makes an arena of faculties that makes me me, and gives you my personality, my morals, my wants and desires, and my decisions. And if all of those things are based on stuff that was external to my choice from the get-go, where did I actually choose anything?
So if you
can see that, yeah.
Yeah. So if you decide tomorrow that Whoppers are no longer good for you, that you need to eat something that's a little healthier, what you're saying is that decision is directly influenced by external sources. Maybe you saw, an ad for, a new better burger, or maybe you saw something that said, it's New Year and it's time to make resolutions not to eat so much red meat.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up. New Year's resolution is one of them. It's going to be January 1st, and I think that I'm going to have a New Year's resolution to myself to get in better shape. So that's one reason why I would stray away from Whoppers. The reason why I want to get into better shape is because I stood in front of the fucking mirror the other day, and I saw this giant beer gut, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. So did I choose to recognize myself that way in the mirror? No, but it was an influence that was put into my reality. My eyes realized that there was a mirror in front of me. I looked, I saw myself, my prior experiences of having a healthy lifestyle and a healthy body and looking as good as I possibly can, that kicked into action. And that now is a deeper desire than to taste the oogly goodness of a Whopper meal.
So yeah, you're basically being influenced by something else to make your decision. The decision didn't just say, well, I'm going to have something else besides a Whopper. You have other goals, other wants that's making you kind of guide towards a change.
Yes. And you don't really think about it too much, but you will always do exactly what you want to do the most. No matter what. If you've ever thought about a time to where you think you've done something that you didn't want to do, if we break it down, any example that anybody brings up, I can literally break it down to show you that you actually did what you wanted. If I don't want to go to work tomorrow because I feel like staying lazy and staying home and being lazy, eating a bag of chips, drinking some soda, watching TV, or coming on here and arguing with people, I would rather do that than go to work. Absolutely. But I go to work anyway. So at face value, you feel like you've done something that you didn't want to do. But at the heart of it, when you break it down, I have a family that I want to take care of. I have a paycheck that I want to be more than $500. So I want these things. And at the end of the day, you weigh these wants, and you will always do. I go to work because I want to take care of my family and make money more than I want to be a lazy piece of shit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the arguments that I've come across in my research into determinism, against determinism, is our justice system. So our justice system is built on free will, and the idea of this free will, whether it's an illusion or not. So how does any of that change under a hard deterministic view? Or?
Yeah, and it doesn't make it any better. It really doesn't. And that's why I'm saying that determinism is not palatable. It's not pretty. It's not something that's attractive to the mind for somebody who has the morals that most of us would agree upon. So the justice system says that people are responsible and accountable for their actions, and that we put them away as a punishment to teach them a lesson and to use them as an example for others not to commit the objective laws that we have set in place depending on the society that you're in. With determinism, you were determined to do everything that you did and you could not have done otherwise. So how are we going to punish people for things that they had no choice in? Which sucks. But here's what I would say. Here's how I would describe this. Is that we have a series of cause and effects that lead us to do certain things in life. We also have a society that's been determined to value things like human well-being. Unfortunately, this guy who just killed a family of 4, unfortunately, he has been handed a really shitty hand of cards in life. So what we're going to have to do is say, boss, I'm sorry, but you were determined to do what you did. Now, you are responsible for that, but you are not accountable for it. We're going to have to lock you up and put you away because we were determined to value human well-being. And we are determined to put you away so you do not do this to anybody else. The current justice system thinks of it as you did something wrong, you are immoral for your actions, and you are going to learn a lesson and be punished for the actions that you did. Best way I can describe the differentiation of the responsibility and accountability, which is something that's really hard for people to understand. If a tree is above your house, right? There's a tall tree that's dying, right? And the branch breaks off of the tree and falls on your house. That branch is responsible for the damage to your house. But are you going to hold that branch accountable for its actions? No, it's a tree. So if we are natural processes and just a series of cause and effects, a man killing a family of 4 and a branch falling off of a tree into a house, there's really no difference between those. It's just a series of cause and effects in a physical, material world.
So do you think that if we, use this deterministic sort of view within the law system, it might be easier to, say, rehabilitate people who have committed crimes?
Yes, that is the one plus positive that I can say, is because I think a lot of us have been determined to have feelings of more rehabilitative actions rather than just trying to punish somebody. I mean, we've already gotten far enough to be determined to get rid of like insane asylums in America. Like, we don't have those anymore because we found out that they are not progressive or conducive to a rehabilitative nature. Solitary confinement still exists. I would bet against solitary confinement being something that's like, a positive, a plus. I think it creates more mental issues. That guy didn't choose to sit in that room didn't choose to commit the crime that he did to sit in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day just to produce more mental issues and to literally go crazy inside of a box.
Yeah, it's just making the problem worse.
Another good argument that I would use is there was a gentleman who, I got to bring up the actual study. I was talking about it today on in the chats. But there was a gentleman who grew up normal, good childhood, nothing going on, nothing special. And one day he woke up and he had pedophilic thoughts. He wanted to do shit with kids. Eventually he went to the doctor because he kept having these urges that he wanted to do things with children. And he went to the doctor. They did an MRI. They found a tumor on his frontal lobe. Did he choose to have that tumor? No. It's a natural process. It's a series of cause and effects that led to him having a tumor on his brain that he didn't choose. Now, they removed that tumor, and just like that, the pedophilic thoughts went away. He was no longer labeling himself as a pedophile. Well, later in life, the tumor grew back. Guess what came back with the tumor? The thoughts, the urges, the want to do stuff with kids. He ended up acting upon those urges and got thrown in prison. Once he was in prison, they did another MRI. They found out that the tumor came back. They took that tumor out again, and he is sitting in prison without pedophilic thoughts for pedestry. He didn't choose any of that.
Yeah, and that there's no consideration on that in how the justice is being served on the sentence.
Yeah, I can see a problem there with the free will system that we have. Is if under a deterministic system, there's a reason has been provided why he was having the thought, so he shouldn't be held accountable for that once the problem is fixed. Yeah.
Now, I will say that we are humans, and we are going to fall into an appeal to emotion at times. Somebody walked into my house and blew my wife's brains out. I'm not going to be like, well, he didn't choose to do that. Right. No, I'm going to be fucking livid, and I'm going to react. I'm going to appeal to my emotions, and logic is going to go right out the window.
But you were determined to react in that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's some would say that it's a hole that I've dug myself, and I can't really find myself out of it. But on the plus side, it really doesn't change my daily life. I still act like everybody else. I still make choices like everybody else.
Yeah. I like the point where you mentioned about the emotional says we're going to have appeals to emotion and that. And I think by the sounds of it, under the deterministic worldview, it's quite an emotional reaction that we need to think that we have free will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
and you could be determined to want to have free will. How ironic it is, you can be.
Well, what is the best argument for free will versus determinism?
Free will?
Yeah.
The best argument for free will. I really don't know.
I've been doing research all day on that, and
give me something.
There isn't a lot of arguments that are very strong on the free will side. There's very strong arguments on the determinism side, but very few. It usually comes down to, we think we have free will, we feel we have free will, and that seems to be the best argument for it. My particular stance, after doing all my research today, is that determinism holds true, but we have a limited type of free will, where we're able to think ahead into the future, where causes haven't happened yet, and understanding cause and effect, we're able to plan a set of causes that we're going to bring into play.
Why would you do that?
Achieve our goals.
Could you say that due to prior experiences and influences that you want to set up a more structured, scheduled life, and you find these things that you have already appealed to in the past, so you're going to set up you were determined to set up your future in that fashion, and you were determined to try and make your day go as planned?
I'm talking more on a because we make goals for ourselves, and we through our wants and everything, which are predetermined. So through cause and effect. We plan certain strategies, and we use the building blocks of causes to affect a future that may not have happened otherwise, and that's where I'm left with. That's where I'm left at. And it might not be the best argument, but that's where my logic has taken me. And you're probably going to blow me out of the water now with that one.
No. Say that last part again to just summarize what you just said.
Right. So basically, I'm under the assertion that we strategize and we use the building blocks of causes that we have in our toolkit that are possible, and we put them in place in a certain way so as to affect a future that may not have happened without us thinking and wanting and strategizing.
Okay. Let me bring up an example. You like ice cream?
Yes.
If you were to set up and strategize tomorrow night, sitting down and having ice cream at a specific time, what ice cream would it be?
I don't know. It's not the sort of thing I plan for. It's like that's a feeling that you just have when you get there, isn't it? So that would.
Is there a type of ice cream that you don't like?
Yes, I'm allergic to peanuts, so anything with peanuts in I wouldn't have. But
Okay, so would you say that you would choose some type of ice cream with peanuts in it for tomorrow night?
no, that would be that. Well, no, obviously not. It would be
Would you have
detrimental to
you
my
would
health.
have
But
a desire to not have to go to the hospital, and your taste buds have a desire to find something that you like, and you are basically going to plan out your day. I'm going to sit down at this time because I know my day normally comes to an end and I wrap things up around this time. And that's so you're actually using induction to be determined to predict what your future is going to be like.
yeah, and I can understand in that. This is why I say it's a limited free will. So it only works. It would only work in certain situations. Especially when things that you would strategize for, where you would, you would plan. So like where I was getting from is I was trying to think about how determinism would fit into like a strategy game, like a game of chess.
But I mean,
and I was
there's instances where you can go through that level of planning, or even like tomorrow night, what ice cream you're going to have at this time, and then it gets to 5:30, you already had dinner, and it's like, you know what, I just don't feel like ice cream right now. So you can go against that, but that doesn't, again, make an argument against determinism, because then again, you would probably be reacting to another cause. Maybe you ate too much dinner. Maybe you just feel like, something else in the refrigerator sounds better right now.
Mm-hmm. But the issue is, when it comes to trying to show how there was some type of free will in that, you would one have to demonstrate how you could have done otherwise than what you actually did, even though you planned it to be otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you did it exactly how you planned, you would need to demonstrate on how it could have been otherwise.
Didn't you one time say that, determinism was kind of defined by the fact that if you had a way to loop a 1 minute stretch of time, just over and over again, and there was a choice at the beginning of that 1 minute, that you would always do the same thing, it would never change.
It would be exactly the same every single time.
Because at that point, all of your stimuli, all of your experiences, everything like that, is going to be exactly the same as you return to it.
Yes, including, and don't forget, including all of the variables that were put in place. If you hit a golf ball from a green out into the golf course, and then you rewinded that and had every single wind variation, every single variable, the pitch of the club, the force of the swing, if you stubbed your toe that morning, all of these variables would put into play on exactly how you hit that golf ball off the green. Now, you would have to show that it happened once, right? So we have evidence of it happening, right? And I would say that if somebody would say, well, you just did it one time, that's not a good, that's only one blotter point, right? Well, if you also agree with the Big Bang, how many times has the Big Bang happened that we know of? As far as we know, it's happened once. And we have that one time to go off of, and we gather data off of that one time. Now, for somebody to say that it could have been different, they would need to demonstrate how it could be different.
Right, which we have no example of.
And I think that's where, I think some people struggle with it, is because, how would you know if you could have done it differently? You can't go back and you can't test any of these things. But from a scientific point of view, and this is what appeals to me with the determinism, is from a scientific point of view, it's the most logical of the, because it's exactly how we do see the universe in physics, for instance.
Yeah. And if you're going to be a materialist and believe in a physical world and that our brains and minds, the way out of this is dualism.
Okay.
Dualism.
Yeah. Let's explain dualism.
Okay, so dualism is the opposite of materialism or physicalism. So dualism, dualists believe that they have a physical body and a physical brain and a physical world, but we also have this thing called a mind, which could be implanted in something called a spirit or a soul. It doesn't necessarily have to be a spirit or a soul. You can just be a secular person that believes that their mind is exterior to the brain. Now, this is a hard thing to tackle because you could be a physicalist that believes that the mind is simply just a byproduct, an emergent property of the brain itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I could make an equally verifiable argument that the mind is separate from the brain, but simply uses the brain as a tool to function, which means that if I was to damage your brain, if I was to hit you over the head with a sledgehammer, you would say that, well, your mind is an emergent property of the brain, and that's why your mind isn't working. You're a completely different person. You don't act the same. You're a vegetable.
Right.
And that's because your mind is a byproduct of the brain. What if I was to say that the mind still is fully intact, but the brain, its tool that the mind uses to function properly, is a damaged tool? I'm an air conditioning mechanic right now. I don't have any tools. If I was to be working on a system and I broke one of my tools, I broke my screwdriver, I would still be an air conditioning mechanic, but I wouldn't be able to function properly.
Yeah.
So that's the hard problem of consciousness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
it's
basically what a dualist is.
So you could describe it a bit like in AI and robotics right now. They're waiting for a time when they call the singularity happens, when they actually become aware, or the robots become aware of themselves.
Oh, I've seen that movie.
Yeah. So that would be like what we are. We're aware. So there's this thing that we don't understand, which is linked to the brain, but is separate from the brain in some way.
Yeah. I mean, I am still on the physicalist side of this because everything else in the world is being investigated and demonstrated to be of a physical nature, of a physical pattern of causes and effects. So to say, well, the mind is just something different, that would almost be a case of special pleading.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can understand that because I've never actually... I've always been on the material side. I've never actually had any belief of some, soul or, higher self or anything like that. So I'd have to say, I would be on the... I don't think that. There's no evidence for it in any of our sciences. So,
yeah. If I was to set down, if you were to have a glass of whatever your favorite beer is, or Pepsi, or whatever your favorite drink is, and you set it down and the lights went out, and I switched that cup out with a cup of piss, and you went to go take a drink, you want to take a drink of the Pepsi or whatever you have in there, but you're going to end up drinking piss. So that want that you had has been hijacked by external experiences and influences.
Right.
And then I'd be determined to be very angry at that point.
Yeah. Yes.
Switching out my single malt whiskey with piss. Yeah.
So I guess this gets down to my question of if free will is kind of the link that they use, like in Christianity, for the explanation of original sin, because that is where sin comes from, was the fact that, according to the Bible, mankind has free will. Are you using that argument of determinism to say that there was no other choice for what happened in the Garden of Eden to happen any other way? Or is that...
I back it up even further than that and piss a whole bunch of people off. So I would say that yes, Adam and Eve were designed. They didn't choose to exist. They didn't choose to be designed not knowing the difference between good and evil, not having that knowledge. They were created by God to have the limited knowledge that they had. Now, within that limited knowledge, they didn't know the difference between good and evil. So when the serpent, aka the devil, comes along and tells them the truth and says that God says you're going to die on this day, surely, if you eat of this fruit. No, you won't. You're going to understand things like God does. You're going to know the difference between good and evil. Well, if they don't know between good and evil, how do they know that God's the good guy and Satan's the bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
They would be subject to what's most appealing to them by the external factors that were presented to them. So this one guy is pointing a finger at him saying, hey, I put this tree right in front of your face, but you can't have it. Big red button, don't push the big red button. Well, the other guy's like, hey, if you eat the fruit, you'll understand, you'll know. Okay, that sounds more appealing. This guy is being more reasonable with me because I'm an idiot. I don't know anything right now. And then they eat of the fruit, and then God says, oh, well, you and the rest of humanity below you, all of your descendants are going to be punished for this. The dude didn't know between good and evil. Eve didn't know the difference between good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally determinism. But I back this up, and this is where I piss people off, is that God, logically speaking, if we're going to say the God of the Bible, cannot have free will either. And that's what people are like, whoa, no, oh no. He just said God can't have free will. Well, if God is eternal and all-knowing, that means he's always known every action, including his own decisions, for all of eternity. So at the time where it was time to, flood the earth and kill everybody, could he have said at the last second, nah, I don't think I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something else. If that is the case and he did have choice, then he's no longer all-knowing because he didn't have previous knowledge of him changing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that if he did change his mind to be all-knowing, he necessarily would have needed to know that he was going to change his mind for all of eternity. So there is no choice in there. If God is perfect, why would he need choice? Why would he need to be able to choose otherwise? If he's already perfect and knows everything, there's no need for choice there. He's just got this perfect plan that he's known for all of eternity, and he's literally playing it out as he knew he would.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the choice in there? Where's the free will?
Yeah, that seems to me at least like kind of a big thing to get over. It's very problematic the more I think about it.
Yeah.
Look at the comments.
It wasn't very logical before we added determinism into it, but now it's even less logical, isn't it?
Yeah. What's even less logical than that is people that don't that subscribe to the PSR, the principle of sufficient reason, and then they place their God belief in that and say that they know that God exists. That's a little jab to somebody you got in the comment section that just found your channel.
Oh, right. Getting some interesting people in there then.
Yeah.
I haven't been reading the comments actually. Actually, I did see one. I saw one from from Cat the Humanist. I'm blaming Justin's determinism on me eating ice cream now.
It's okay if you eat ice cream, Cat. It's not Justin's fault.
Yeah.
You can just eat it.
But yeah, that's basically my view on determinism and how I implement it into my reality.
I don't know it makes sense to me. It seems like you said it kind of leads you down a hole that you can't get out. Mm-hmm. So what would probably make you consider backing off on the hard determinism?
What would make me consider that? If somebody was to be able to do a experiment to where they were able to take a mind and separate it from a brain, give that mind take it from a damaged brain and put it into a fresh brain that's not damaged, and it's still the exact same person, same personality, same everything.
Okay.
I think that would convince me of dualism, and once I'm convinced of dualism, now I believe in immaterial. In the immaterial, and when I believe in the immaterial, I can say there's something outside of physical process matter in motion, things like that. I could literally say there's something separate from that, and I can make my own free will choices with that thing that's outside.
Okay.
Until then, I don't think I'd be able to.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, there's a very interesting conversation going on in the in the chat there.
Yeah.
What is the casual principle? Because someone's just mentioned you can't even justify the casual principle. So why do you believe in determinism?
Well, I've never spoke about the casual principle with Duncan Atheism, aka Darth Dawkins. Yeah, that's who that is.
Right. Well,
congratulations on having him finding the channel.
I feel blessed.
Yeah. So no, what we were actually talking about on Discord when I was speaking with Darth was the principle of sufficient reason, which means that there's necessarily an explanation for everything. And he believes that God knows everything, which means God would be the explanation for everything. But the principle of sufficient reason is a presupposition. So if your God belief is based in a presupposition is exactly that, because it's not concrete. We can't know. We have to presuppose it. It is axiomatic. So if your God belief is based in an axiomatic reference, then you could never be Gnostic about your belief, which means that you could just say, well, I don't know if God exists. I just believe that he does. And then once you point that out to the theist or Duncan Atheism, once you point that out to him, he just runs in circles. It's like he's a dog that puked on the ground, and that was his argument. And then once I draw him away from that argument and show him where logic is that he goes right back to that cold, wet pile of puke, says, hey, this looks pretty good. Let's try this out. And then we just go round and round in circles.
Just like most theist arguments, you end up just going round and round in circles. That's what I've found anyway, in my experience.
Just so you know, Darth Dawkins is actually my little brother. I am on Discord. I have something called Kylo Ren. So or Kylo Craig. So it's Kylo Ren with William Lane Craig's face plastered on it, and I've created a scripted argument. And that's actually what I was bringing up to you. I've taken that scripted argument and used it on Darth in a Discord server to where he didn't have moderator capabilities, and he got destroyed. He didn't know what to do. He ended up turning his ringtone on his phone and said, "Oh, Saved by the Bell, you got saved now, Justin. I got to go take this phone call." It's weird how that's happened 3 times now that I've talked to him, and then he bans me from his Discord server. But yeah, enough about him. We don't need to talk about him. It's not important.
Don't need to give him any more airtime.
Exactly. So how does I asked about free will. So how does compatibilism fit in? So is it kind of like the happy medium between the two extremes? Or?
Yeah. So compatibilism, like I was saying when I was explaining what compatibilism is all about, is that they compatibilists do recognize the series of cause and effects. They do recognize that things in your life can be influenced by external factors. But even though it's been influenced, whatever decision you make internally, that is your decision and you are responsible for it and you're accountable for it. So it's almost as if, yes, it was determined to happen, but you made the decision. So it's all on you.
So yeah, you have the same amount of external stimuli. You have the choices in front of you, but when it comes down to it, you actually made that last choice. Does that mean that if you were in that, as we discussed, the infinite loop, that you could make a different choice the next time, or is it still you're kind of predetermined to make the same choice over and over?
Yes. So that's what I would argue, is that in any situation, you would, with the same variables in place, if you take a situation, put it in a vacuum, that it will happen exactly the same every single time. Now, I will add this caveat, is that I don't know anything except for one thing, and that's that I have experiences. I am convinced, which means that I believe strongly that hard determinism is true. but I'm not arrogant enough to say that I know this for a fact. The only thing that I know is that I have experiences. That's how I get intelligibility. You know, it's one of Darth's arguments is that atheism doesn't have any intelligibility. You start with the cogito. You start with I think, therefore I am, or thinking, therefore existence.
Right.
Because they want to bring up the I and say you're begging the question or some stupid shit like that. But thinking equals existence, equals experience, equals reality. Now, my reality gives me the laws of logic. My reality is my reality. A equals A. My reality is not my reality. A is not A, which is there's identity, and then there's the identity. Shit. You got identity, excluded middle, and non-contradiction. So there's identity and non-contradiction, and then my reality is not my reality and not my reality simultaneously. So there's non-contradiction right there. Now I have the fundamental classic laws of logic to be able to observe my reality with, and everything that I observe within my experiences, and logically base things off of that, and figure out how my world works. There's intelligibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I didn't choose the laws of logic. We could go right back into how it's determined.
Exactly. That's just kind of a tool we use. So we're using a tool that we were given.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like you said about your analogy with the HVAC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see how it's a bit of a rabbit hole because it's very hard to argue against. Determinism basically has an answer for everything.
Yeah.
And you can't get round it without presupposing with the free will argument in a sense. So even in the compatibilistic view, you're still presupposing that it feels like you have the free will and you're making those decisions. So that must be the case. So. That's dangerous because you can end up with going down that sort of road. You're back into the theist sort of arguments, aren't you?
Yeah, I agree. I don't see free will making much sense. I don't know if I would go as far down that hole as Justin does, but it's definitely interesting to kind of watch him go down it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch me do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just stand at the top of the hole and give you a wave from.
Yeah, while you guys sit inside of your delusion of free will.
Exactly.
No, I think I'm abseiling down the hole now. Actually, I'm slightly coming round again.
I chose not to go down the hole, so I must have some kind of free will.
I like danger, so it's all right.
Well, like I said, even if you subscribe to hard determinism, well, obviously Skids was not determined to subscribe to determinism. He was determined to subscribe to something else. So that's perfectly fine. He couldn't have done otherwise.
Yeah.
He literally could not have done otherwise. He couldn't have agreed with us tonight.
That's true. It's probably just because I don't understand any of it, but that's okay.
Now, I try and find the easiest way to break it down. And, I try and find the easiest way to break it down in the simplest terms that I can. And I'm still learning too. I have to give a lot of my credit to somebody who was in the chat, The One Good Reason. Mike Carey, he's the one that handed me this platter called Hard Determinism. And I started eating right away. I was just like, yep, that's it.
Do you have any good book recommendations that you would...
So I think I forget who wrote it. It's called Elbow Room. And that might be actually a book that's against determinism. Elbow Room. Let's see, Elbow Room book. Let's see. I think it was Dan Dennett. Dan Dennett wrote it. Book in 1984 called Elbow Room, in which Dennett discusses the philosophical issues of free will and determinism. 1983, Dan delivered the John Locke lectures at Oxford on the topic of free will. So Elbow Room is something that I would definitely encourage because it gives both sides, gives arguments for and against determinism and free will. And I don't like sending. I mean, I read a lot of books that are like one-sided, but then again, I grab a different book that's completely the opposite. I'll read Christopher Hitchens' God Is Not Great, and then turn around and read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Frank Turek. So the elbow room kind of gives you the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dennett's a great writer and philosopher, so he's going to be it's going to be a good read. Either way, whether you subscribe to the determinism or not.
Yeah. Just to let me reiterate, because I don't think Duncan heard. He said, "Do you have any metaphysical grounds to say what is or can or cannot be?" I already said I use the cogito to give me my experience. My experience gives me my reality. My reality gives me the laws of logic. From the laws of logic, I can observe the world around me and make predictions on what the future is going to be like. So there is the metaphysical grounds to say what I'm saying right now. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yeah, so how far do you think that we should be taking the illusion of free will? How far do you think we should subscribe to in a deterministic world?
Well, here's the thing. If this is what really pisses me off about free will, is that people, especially religious groups and cults, like to use free will to their advantage to put other people down. For example, trans or homosexual or anything like that, they say, well, you chose to be that way. Well,
we definitely didn't.
Here's a question. Trent, are you heterosexual?
Yes, I am.
When did you choose to be heterosexual?
I don't recall ever choosing.
There you go. It wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
They try and use this thing called free will to put other people down due to the way that they are, because it doesn't mingle or mix with their theology or their worldview. So if I say everybody was determined to do everything that they did, then everybody's on the exact same playing field. Everybody was determined to do everything that they did and are not to be judged. Now, you can take precautions. If I have a guy that I work with that comes to me and says, hey, bro, like, I'm a pedophile. I haven't acted upon it. I need help. I'm not going to cut him off and say, you're a piece of shit. Get out of my life. Right. I'm going to say, all right, well, I'm going to make sure you're not my friend on Facebook. And I'm not going to talk and let you see pictures of my kids or talk to my kids or talk about my kids. Let's talk about football. Like, let's talk about mechanics. Let's talk about something like that. Let's get you some help for your issues, but still treat you like a human being, because you didn't choose to be this way.
And you're not justifying it. You're just not judging on that. You're just basically giving, especially if the person didn't actually act on it. They're making kind of the, like you said, the choice between eating healthy or eating junk. He knows he has this desire, and he's trying to act against it, knowing what the consequences would be if he acted against it or acted upon those urges. So he's making the effort to avoid that choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It looks like we've got one of Darth Dawkins' followers in here now as well.
Oh, no, paid employee.
Oh, paid employee.
If you're talking about Catholic traditionalist, he also has, I think Supreme Leader was in here also. Yeah, Supreme Leader Kim. Yeah, he's also one of his trolls. I don't know if he's paid, but Darth Dawkins specifically told me that he pays Catholic traditionalists to go around and use his script and troll. So
the saying that Darth Dawkins demolished you. I really don't see how that happened. I'd like some proof, some evidence of that. Have you got a recording of it?
Yeah. So yeah. Part of the recording, so my satirical video that I put together with Darth Dawkins, that was from our conversation, everything that he said. So at one point he's like, I told him, I was like, Darth, you keep interrupting me. Like, you asked me a question, I can't answer it. because 3 words in, you interrupt me, tell me that I'm wrong, give me my answer. And then once you give me my answer, you tell me how stupid my answer is. Like, bro, you gave me that answer. Like, I didn't answer it for myself. I wasn't able to be. You were determined to interrupt me.
I was just going to say, you were determined.
You were determined to interrupt me. So he's like, you know what? I'll let you talk. I won't make any criticisms. I won't say anything. And I'll wait till you're done. I got about 4 words into my sentence, and he was like, no. This is what you believe. And I'm like, Darth, I thought you were like a man of your word. I thought you were going to actually shut the fuck up and let me answer what I wanted to answer. And now that I've been getting better at figuring out how to tear his little argument apart, he's banned me. So Darth, I mean, if you want a piece of me again, go ahead and unban me from a Reformation server. I'll come back in and school you again. You just give me equal talking time and not overtalk me, because I guarantee I'll have people in there recording it and then exposing you for who you are.
There you go.
It seems like some of the tactics that because I've watched some of his stuff on when some of his paid followers and that on Atheist Experience and other shows like that, and it seems like just a lot of the tactics. It's just like, you know.
Have you ever heard of EF on AXP? Have you ever heard of the caller EF?
Yes, I think I was watching one the other day.
Okay.
That's Darth. He has to keep switching his name because his name gets played out and nobody ever wants him around, so he's got to come up with a new name. He's so far been, of my knowledge, he's been EF, Evolution False, he's been Darth Dawkins, he's been Duncan Atheism, and he's been Darth Mauling Atheism. All 5 of those names he's ran under. So just keep a lookout for any one of those. I like what James is tired. He said Darth owned Justin subjectively.
That's a good point, that one.
So, Trent, you're not on board. What's your argument against determinism?
I don't know if I have an argument really per se about it. It just seems, like you said, hard to wrap my head around, because it's basically, it sounds like it's just too much. It's like everything boils down to almost a positive negative type of choice, like very binary type thing, where it seems to me like you would have more options available for whatever you're trying to decide, and some of those decisions are not made until the very split second. So there's got to be some ability to choose on your own part between many different choices. If it was just black and white, it would make more sense. But it just still seems like it's just too linear to make sense to me.
Yeah, I understand that. It's
not a good argument, but it's at least when I get confused.
It's very black and white, and I can see exactly why. I honestly wish that I was where you are right now, because I wouldn't be down in this rabbit hole of determinism. And I wish I didn't understand it. So I could still think that I have free will, because that's palatable. It feels good to know that you have freedom.
It does. Because and when you make a good decision, it makes you feel good about, okay, I've made the right choices to get to the point where I am in my life. And then when you say, well, if you take you out of those situations, you would not have made those same choices. Your choice would have been determined on how you were raised. So then it kind of takes, in a way, it takes a little bit of your individuality away from you, because you're not a product of your mind, you're the product of external stimuli.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not understanding it correctly to assign it that, because, you, like you said, you still have your individuality, you have the illusion of free will, but it's just you have less control over than you think. So I guess that's where I'm hung up on it.
Yeah, I'd say that I'm still slightly hung up on that similar sort of point as well. I probably wouldn't go fully hard determinist, but
yeah, you could be a soft determinist or compatibilist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm probably in the compatibilist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't deny a series of cause and effects, but you still feel like you have the ability to make choices.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly where I would fall.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that you can use I think the physical world that we're in is deterministic, fully, but I think we have an ability to, as I said earlier, to strategize and use different causation to bring about other outcomes. I think
The question that I have to ask is, how do we gain that ability to strategize?
Well, of course, that comes from a naturalistic explanation how we get to there. But I think of it a bit like a computer program. So it's like our mind's a computer program. Now all the things that led up to all the causes that led up to your brain having that ability is the binary code that makes up the ones and zeros. But the program itself can do different things, has different functions other than what and it can make certain things happen. So I think of it a little bit like that.
Can that computer choose to make things happen, or was it designed to do things in a specific way?
Well, at the moment, it was designed to do things in a specific way, and I think I think I'm, for what I'm saying to make sense, we'd have to see an AI system have the ability, have the consciousness and the awareness to make its own decisions. Before we could use that as a proper analogy. So it does have flaws.
Without being designed to be able to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a hypothetical.
The question that you would have to ask yourself is, if I do have choice and I believe in a natural physical series of cause and effects that led to this moment right now, do we have any examples of something that was a series of cause and effects that suddenly became something other than a series of cause and effects?
That's a good. It's a good point.
I can't think of anything that would match that.
Now, don't let that fall into a black swan fallacy, because we can say that doesn't exist or couldn't exist because we haven't seen one yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is something
to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone in the chat earlier was saying that there's, out of all of the, the possible, causes for things, there's somewhere in the region of like, quintillions of different possible.
Yeah, that was my sensei, my determinism sensei.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's. So it would be very hard to track down, and there may be something that none of us have thought of, or that anyone's thought of, but because there is so many options.
If you ever find anybody that comes on your show, or that you come across that believes in free will, and they feel like they have a very strong argument for free will against determinism, send them my way. Or if you find two people, I think me and Mike and myself would be more than happy to come on your show and do a 2-on-2 debate. People love doing debates. If you wanted to moderate a debate, I'd come on here and do a debate for you.
I'd love to do that. That's why I am wanting to take my channel eventually into debates. Once I've built up a bit of, I'm still really nervous on each show. It's only the second show, but.
It gets better as you go. The more you do it, then you won't even think about it anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd love to do that. We'll have to get that arranged.
I'd be really happy to. Yeah. Any other questions about determinism or anything? Because I think I have more, but I don't have any at the top of my brain right now. I'm sure that I could way more out of here. I didn't know how long you wanted the show to go. I'm willing to go for another 3 hours on determinism.
Well, if anyone in the chat has any questions, anything about determinism, leave something there now, and we'll see if we get any good questions come in.
While people are typing questions, I will show everybody this, because
Yeah.
Katie got a new hat, and of course Justin's always got his suave hats. He's not wearing his "Make America Secular Again" hat again. But I felt jealous, and so I did find my old clown hat to throw on.
Hey, look at that!
So,
That's what he does when he does my makeup. That's what he wears.
So that's the hat there you see in the picture. That's the real hat. So we can all admire that while you type in your questions.
There you go. There you go. There's the face that scares Darth Dawkins. Yeah, Kylo Craig.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to do.
12:39 is good. Oh, Shane is going. Isgrig.
Oh,
Shane Isgrig. I've never heard of Shane Isgrig.
going to be on Tart on the 29th.
29th, which is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Talking about determinism.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, I'll be doing a show tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Probably at the same time. Or else I would love to jump in there.
I'll definitely be joining in on your show tomorrow. I missed the last one that you did.
The last one that let's see, which one was that?
Did you do a show on
I think you did one.
Oh, Sunday I did one in the morning, but that was just I was just looking at a different. I was just not mirroring, but I was live streaming me and T-Jump having a discussion on objective morality.
Yeah.
Did you do your regular Saturday show?
I did an open mic.
Oh,
okay. We actually had Catholic Traditionalist who was in the chat here. We had him in. He lasted about 5 minutes and then ran away. Then we also had who else did we have? We had Otangelo Grasso. If you've ever seen AXP, Otangelo calls into Matt all the time, talking about some cell factory stuff. There's a question for you, Borg.
My stance on determinism. So I hold determinism right now to be true in reality, in the physical world. So the cause and effect is what leads us to where we are now. But I think free will can, a limited style of free will can be pasted on top of that. By I've forgotten how I put it now. So I think free will can be compatible with that, in the sense of you can understand the causes and effect within determinism, and you can set a goal and strategize using the building blocks of the causes to affect a future that may not have happened, or may happen differently if you didn't strategize. That's where I stand on it. So it's slightly compatibilistic view, I'd say. Not full compatibilism, but
a little further away than I am.
Yeah.
Where are you at, Skids? Like, we're exactly. Well, I mean, you've already kind of explained.
Yeah, I would say I'm a compatibilist.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Whether I could defend it, I don't think I could say. I just feel that's where I would fall.
Well, there you go. We have books to read. We have things to learn about, and that's what all this is about. Is about learning something new.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, I do understand that obviously with compatibilism there is a big issue, and I wouldn't even know how to, how to argue it or against it, and that is the issue of your wants. So when you want something. Now, in compatibilism, this is obviously a big issue because you need to under that you really, if you're going to say that compatibilism is true, you need to find a way of explaining wants other than in a deterministic way. So, is it possible for you to want something?
Are you talking about just basic needs, like biological? Like I'm hungry. I'm cold. That type of thing.
Yeah, so it's the problem lies in the fact that can you choose what you want? Is that possible for you to choose what you want?
I would know. If I want to be a sympathetic person one day, right? And let's just say I see a gentleman, let's see a veteran of some sort walk down the street, or not walk down the street, but he is rolling down the street in his wheelchair because he doesn't have legs. I can run down the street. So to humble myself, I'm going to want to be in his position so I can fully understand how much he wants to get up and run down the street. So I can want something. But why did I want that?
Yeah.
I wanted it because of my external experiences and influences in life that caused me to be a sympathetic person and want to understand and level with people and have some type of empathy towards how their life is.
Makes sense.
I could always...
I don't know if I even have an argument for that. It just seems like there's got to be an explanation for it. Whether, it's like, is it really a want to want to be able to understand? Are we using the want as, this is truly a desire that's ingrained in me, or just more of a, quest for knowledge? It's hard to get into, saying everything, and this is where I am hung up, I guess. It's trying to get to that point where everything I try to decide is not truly up to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why I say I feel this is my position, but it may be that I know better the more I think about it, and I just don't want to admit it.
Once you get outside of what you feel should be the case, and jump more into what can I logically observe and demonstrate to be the case, and that may take time. It took a little bit of time for me, but if you go down that route and you are convinced that things are simply just a naturalistic process and that there really is no choice, I mean, you'll be able to, in my case, be open to anybody bringing up any example that they have to where they think that they had choice, and you can show naturalistic series of cause and effects, completely external factors that caused that situation to go down exactly like it did.
Yeah.
And with free will, you're like, well, I want to feel like I'm free, and I want to feel like I have choices, and you can't prove that I couldn't have done otherwise, which is almost like a shifting the goalpost at that point.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you could feel that way for a certain period of time. I'm not saying that everybody's going to end up being a determinist, because they may not be determined to be a determinist.
Right.
And round and round we go. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. See, I can understand that, and because for weeks now I've been racking my mind trying to find something in my experience, something that I've gone through that would go against determinism. And I thought I had found it when with the decision that I made to start this, the channel that I started 7 months ago, because it went against everything. I'm literally, I've got loads of mental health problems, which my therapist says that I shouldn't really be doing this. It goes against everything that I feel it's really hard for me to do, and everything in my life goes against what I'm doing now. But so I thought, oh yeah, well there you go. That's against determinism, because I chose to do this, even though all of the primary causes, say, oh, I have to go the other way. I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
but even that doesn't work, because is obviously then the conviction that I have to want to help other people. Because I understand that other people are probably there will be other people out there that are in an earlier stage of their recovery from religion than I.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
you could be like,
cause.
What happens when you have a set of parents that really loves their kids and raises them in a very religious, background, their childhood, very religious. It's the preacher's daughter. And then she goes out and just starts doing whatever with whoever. And the preacher's like, I didn't raise my daughter to be like this. Well, if there was a external factor that determined her to be rebellious due to the type of lifestyle that she was indoctrinated into, that can be the deterministic factor on what caused her to be rebellious.
Yeah. So even when you think you've got the answer against determinism, you can never really be 100% certain that there isn't a cause that you maybe didn't realise was a cause. Some little factor somewhere that affected what was going, what you were going to do. So you were always going to do that.
So to put my Justin hat on, basically what you're saying in all these cases is that you've got your stimuli. These were the choices that were made in your life for you. So you did not have a say in any of those. But you're to a point where you recognize that these stimuli are in your life, and you have now determined that you're going to overcome them, where you're going to do the opposite thing out of spite. All that sounds like a greater desire for the opposite, not because you actually want it. It's because you are determined to overcome something, or just say fuck you to somebody and do the exact opposite of what they just told you.
Yeah.
Golf clap.
Was that the Justin hat? Well,
that was good. See, now you're arguing for determinism, and you're not even a determinist.
I mean, like I said, it makes sense. So.
Yeah, and then there's also the problem as well. I mean, if you say, well, I was determined to do this thing, but then I decided to do opposite because to prove that determinism wasn't true.
Yeah, if I give you
a
red
the same
cup
problem.
And a blue cup, if I give you a red cup and a blue cup, both with your favorite malt whiskey, right? And your favorite color is red, and I tell you, Borg, you're going to choose that red cup because that's your favorite color.
I could choose to go blue.
I'm choosing the other one. I'm choosing the blue cup. Well, now you were determined to be rebellious, what I had already previously said, and now you're determined to pick the other cup rather than the one that. And
the reason, the causation would be because I wanted to say, fuck you to determinism.
But then at the end of the day, you just did it.
I've just gone in a circular argument and.
Had another desire that was greater than the previous one. So. I don't know. You might be able to convince me on this one then. It makes a lot of sense.
I've been racking my brains and I can't find an argument against it. And although I hold still to a small amount of free will in a certain sense, I think that's more because it's a really logical argument, hard determinism, but it's not a very pleasing one to go with. So there's always that emotional side of yourself, which is like, no, how do I continue living on if free will isn't there? That's how I've lived my entire life, with free will.
Now you can be very, very deterministic and still be religious. If you ever met or talked to a Calvinist Christian, they believe in what's called predestination, or some believe in what's called double predestination, which just reminds me of National Lampoon's Animal House Double Secret Probation.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
This was a question I actually had earlier, before we got fully into the topic. How does predestination differ from determinism, or does it differ?
Yes, it differs, and it pisses me off when people that know the difference still act like it's not different. Okay. So to clear the room, Determinism, like I said, is taking this moment right now, looking at the dominoes that have fallen previously to this moment right now. This moment, the domino is still standing. The previous moment, the domino is falling over, and the ones before that, the dominoes have already fallen. And we can show what happened with these dominoes that led up to this moment right now. Predestination is exactly like it sounds. It's preordained. It's engineered. God had, if we're going to go with Christianity, God had written in the Bible. He's all-knowing and eternal. He's written in the Bible all the names of the people that were going to go to heaven, and not one name should be blotched out of the book, which means that the people that are here that are going to refuse God were literally put here to go to hell, because we could not have done otherwise. If our name is not already in that book from the beginning of time, then we will go to hell. And if we don't go to hell, then God's not all-knowing anymore. What else? There's somewhere else in the Bible to where it basically states, oh yeah, God says that he shows mercy on who he pleases. And nope. I was getting noise through my headphones. But yeah, so within that, within predestination, everything's already scoped out from the beginning. So they believe that God made engineered every single future action. So it's a prediction into the future. If we as determinists had every single cause and effect that preceded us, then we would be able to predict all the way back to the singularity of the Big Bang. We would be able to predict every single cause and effect after that mathematically. But since that's not practical within our reality, we can just take a certain situation and show how that situation led up, how some one person's life led up to that. And you can even go back to, okay, so this person ended up being a child molester of some sort because they were molested as a child themselves. And you could show the psychological steps that brought you to this moment right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Definitely. I just didn't think how religious thinking would fit in with determinism, but
God shows who he shows grace to, who he gives grace to. Calvinists would say that we are saved by grace. Believer by faith, saved by grace. And saved by grace, God gives who he pleases grace. But if God also has a deterministic nature, being all-knowing and eternal, he couldn't have not given that person grace that he gave grace to. So once again, we're back into God being deterministically eternal and all-knowing, and having already engineered and mapped out every single thing that was going to happen, and it couldn't have happened otherwise, lest he take away his all-knowingness from his own nature, to where in the Bible it says he cannot act outside of his own nature. So there couldn't be any way that he's not deterministic.
And that's not like a gotcha moment where it's just simply, well, there's no answer for it.
No, I'm literally diving into a Calvinist view of what they believe and showing how it logically follows.
Okay.
I'm not saying, they got the wrong interpretation or somebody else. I mean, I will step into whoever's worldview they have, and then show them how. I will step into a person who believes in free will. I will step in and say, okay, let's just say you did make that choice. Now let's see if it logically follows. Let's see if we get to a point to where we can't say that something caused this to happen.
Exactly.
And it hasn't happened yet. So I'm still open to anybody coming on having an argument for free will.
I'd love to hear an argument for an actual logical argument for free will, definitely. But I've been racking my brains for ages, and I don't see where the one would actually come from.
It would probably come from something like an argument for consciousness, some type of consciousness or dualism.
Okay.
That's where I think the best argument would come from some dualistic argument.
But you'd still need to prove the existence of this separate consciousness from the actual brain itself.
Yes, you would need to do that first to be able to make this argument. And once you do that, let's presuppose that that person does that for conversation's sake. Now they're going to have to show me how they could have done otherwise with that external mind or spirit or soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
And we're not there yet in science, are we?
No. I'm not saying we couldn't be there.
No, I have seen some studies where they are actually working on this, trying to map the entire human brain and then trying to see if they can transfer a consciousness from a brain into a machine mind that's built, slice by slice from the mapped human model of the mapped human brain that they're taking it from, and see if they can actually move it over. But that's still like 10-20 years away from.
Yeah.
What I'm excited for is Elon Musk. He's coming up with this this thing to where he can download your consciousness into a virtual reality. So after you die, after you physically die, you have your own virtual heaven.
Oh, that would be cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. So it is heaven for atheists.
Oh, nice.
To where the believers, they're just going to be dead and in the ground, and they're going to cease to exist, while we're having, old Lollapalooza in the digital world.
Plus, it's a virtual reality. We get to decide what our heaven will be.
Yeah. You get to decide what your heaven will be, and there's nobody telling you that since you're here, you have to be here for all of eternity.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you get tired of it, you can unplug yourself.
You can say, I'm fucking gone.
Yeah.
You can't say, hey, God, thanks for bringing me into heaven. Can I hang out for about 300 years and then just not exist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
I've seen it all. I'm done.
And you don't have to worship some deity for all of eternity. And
I mean, you can if you want to in your own digital world, but I don't know why you would.
Yeah. Just worship Richard Dawkins.
Probably a better choice anyway, though.
Oh, no, I'd love to see that. That would be brilliant. And
then, I can just say, how do you know it's actually being downloaded and not just making a copy? So it's not really you. It's just some virtual copy of your brain in a computer.
Yeah, and I mean that's the cool question to ask is if we were to take you. So we've done in quantum mechanics, we've taken a photon or a particle and we've created an identical particle. We've cloned that particle
quantum
to be
entanglement.
exactly as quantum entanglement, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be able to recognize that particle is identical to the one, and then you would destroy that the first particle, the original particle. But that new particle, is that a different particle or is it the same particle? Right. If we were to create the same human, if I was to take Katie and I was to make a exact copy of her with all of her experience and influence and memories and everything, make an identical, every hair on her head the way it is right now, identical to who she is, and then destroyed the original, would the new one be a new Katie, or would it still just be Katie?
I would have to say it's a new one.
Well, here's the thing.
I would argue from the other side.
Are you a new Trent? Because all within your lifetime, multiple times so far, have all of the cells in your body, everything that was you when you were born, has been destroyed and replaced by new cells.
Yeah, but even that I kind of see is different because it's not like a simultaneous, like, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. It's kind of like it's a gradual process.
They've done the experiment, as you were talking about this experiment with the photons and that, and they've also done it with electrons as well. And the one that I've seen where they did it with the electrons, they put a specific charge onto the electron. And when they did the quantum entanglement on it, whatever charge they put onto the electron, it had exactly the same charge on the other on the secondary one as well. So although it was a new particle in a sense because it was separate from the first. It was whatever changes you made to one had to happen to the other. So it's technically the same, exactly the same particle reacting in exactly the same way.
Let me ask this though. So if you transferred, let's go back to a full person as an example. You transferred a person like Star Trek teleport. So from point A to point B. And it basically takes a person, disintegrates them, and then reassembles them somewhere else. For a split second, the person exists in both spots, even if it's for a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a moment. And then it removes the original and reassembles the new one. If they existed at the same spot for even just that fraction of a moment, how can they both be the same? Because you have to destroy one to get the other one.
I can see where you're coming from with it. It's obviously we're talking about something on the on the macroscopic scale, on like all of these experiments have been done in the quantum world, so subatomic.
Yeah. The thing is, the person that is going through this, the original and the new person, quote unquote, they're never going to know the difference either way, because the original person's going to be destroyed when the copy is made. The copy is going to have every memory up to the point of teleportation. So they're not going to know anything other than them moving has happened. They're not going to have any other input. So there's no way to answer it by the person, because they're going to have every memory, every experience that the previous had. So it's not like a brand new person, but it's just like a perfect clone.
Yeah, in that sense, yes, it would be like a clone. But as you say, they would have all of the memories that have. So it comes down to whether or not the consciousness transfers.
Right.
In that process, and from the evidence we have when we're doing it with particles, the evidence would say yes, it does. But of course, we could be wrong when you do it on a full living human. Yeah, could be wrong.
Yeah, I would just say whether it's done simultaneously or over a certain period of time. It almost goes to the car analogy. You have a car and one part, breaks, and you replace that one part. Eventually, once you get through every part of the car, it's been replaced with a new part. Do you have a different car? Or is it still the same old car that you've always had?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, Wes in the comments mentioned something similar. When replacing boards on a ship, when does the ship become another ship?
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's another analogy.
I've heard that analogy before.
Yeah. So I think we'd have to just, we can't test it right now because we don't have that technology, but I think it's a safe assumption to say that we would be the same person, as long as all the parts were exactly the same.
Yeah, as long as you're all the parts that people recognize you as you and use the law of identity to recognize you as you.
Yeah.
And you have the exact same memories and experiences within your life, how could you ever tell the difference between that? That right there, to say that it's a different person, you have now violated the law of non-contradiction and excluded middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because A equals A, that's identity. A is not A. So how were you able to identify the clone Katie from the original Katie?
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also comes down to as well, when you say that you created this clone, and in the process that we use, there would be two other versions of you at technically at one point, so there'd be 3 of you, and 2 would be destroyed, leaving one left. But if you're doing it all at the quantum level, so you're not actually reinitializing the one set of particles until after the others are destroyed, then there wouldn't be any part of that process that was not in the subatomic, in the subatomic realm. I think that would be a key importance, because as soon as you reinitialized any of them, then the memories and everything are going to be in that one, and if you had 2, then you could technically say they're not the same anymore, because one's experiencing something new that the other one isn't experiencing.
Yeah.
Sounds like I need to start putting in my pre-order for my VR then.
Have you ever seen Ready Player One?
I have not seen that yet. I need to watch that.
Oh my gosh!
Especially like my age group, that is like geared towards my age group, but I have not got a chance to check it out yet.
It is such a fantastic movie.
Oh,
it's so good. I don't even want to start telling you about it. Like, I don't want to spoil any bit of that. That is one of the greatest movies that I've ever seen.
I'll have to watch it this week. I'll watch your show tomorrow night, but then I promise next time I'll watch the movie.
Well, I mean, I'd rather you watch my show instead. So that's
exactly. Wait one more day.
Yes. So we were talking about the teleportation. Actually, it's quite interesting. One of the things I find quite fascinating about that is, if it works and it's it's a viable process. There was an idea that one scientist had, which was to have regeneration booths. So you can actually go and get a new set of particles made, and get rid of your who you are now, destroy that, and have a new person, which is set the DNA so in the transference to be younger. So you get to like 60-year-old, and then you go in for your regeneration, and you come out 30 again.
That is the key to invulnerability or immortality.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did I say invulnerability?
And there's same for like operations. If you ever got like tumours, cancer or anything, or you had heart disease or anything, you just go, instead of going for an operation, surgery and that, you just go in to one of these regeneration booths and get set back to an earlier version of yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, we talked about this, but I remember when I was a teenager, they promised us hovering skateboards, and I'm still waiting on that.
So. There are hoverboards. There really are hoverboards.
Yeah.
But it's not like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. You don't get to do all the cool stuff on them. So.
Hey,
we've got hovering trains now.
What the hell was with the pumps?
I don't know. It was the 80s. They thought that stuff was cool back then. It's like, this is the twilight of mankind's greatest achievement, is that we get Nikes that are self-tying. and very pixelated billboards that are in 3D. That was the pinnacle of mankind.
Yeah, that's...
What's wrong with Velcro?
Right? Yeah, right. I'm actually part of a YouTube Facebook group to where we pretend to be suburban grill dads. So we go on there all the time and post like pictures of our New Balance shoes and just the different spices and barbecue sauces that we would use during the summertime in our new like what do you call them?
Aprons.
Aprons, yeah. New grilling aprons with these corny ass dad jokes on it, and just tell dad jokes all day, and you pretend to be a suburban barbecue dad, and it's so much fun.
That sounds epic. How do you find stuff like that?
You just type it into Facebook, and the craziest stuff comes up. I mean, there's groups to where you pretend that you're a ant inside of an ant colony. I mean, there's all kinds of different.
I'm not living my Facebook life the way I should, apparently.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But
that's definitely a creature that has hard determinism. The ant. There's no way it can do anything differently.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess that brings up a good question. I mean, is that how the animal world operates? Is that more of a true determinism?
Well, here's the thing. Do dogs have morals? Do you think dogs can show empathy?
Yeah, I would say yes, they could.
Well, then now you would have to, argue that either it was or was not determined for that dog to be empathetic towards another dog or its owner or some random person on the street. Now that whole argument that a religious person would say for a soul, or animals don't have souls. Humans are the only ones with souls. No. So now, how do you describe this empathetic nature that this dog without a soul has? It's almost self-defeating. Yeah. If you break it down far enough, now if humans are the only ones with souls, well, our empathy and our morals, which is our decision making, is not inherent to a soul. It can happen without a soul.
Right.
So where do we go now?
That's a good point.
Well, it's coming up to 1 hour and 50 minutes, nearly. I think we're probably best off leaving it there. There's probably a lot more we could go into.
I'm right on the edge, so we probably better leave it there. I think Justin's got a convert.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely swaying more towards.
I apologize.
It's all good.
Yeah,
I'm never proud when I find a convert to determinism. I actually talked to my wife. Just one last thing. I talked to my wife a few months ago about determinism. She didn't know anything about it. I sat her down, showed her videos, went through Crash Course Philosophy, which if you guys don't watch that, Crash Course Philosophy is fantastic, especially if you quite understand it. It breaks it down in real simple terms. You might have to watch it a few times because he speaks really fast in the video to get like a half hour's worth of conversation out in like 5-10 minutes. But she started crying.
Oh.
And I'm like, no, babe, why are you crying? And she goes, you've convinced me, but it's like super shitty. I'm like, yeah, I know. It is. Like, I don't like it either. I just am convinced that it's true.
It's like waking up from a really nice dream and realizing that you're laid in a pile of shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should leave it there now. I'm going to leave open the what do you call it now? The StreamYard after this. So if anyone wants to jump in and have a quick chat,
Mike, come in.
We can do that.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Mike for a while.
Yeah, Mike, do you have like 15 minutes? Come on.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to do that, just ask in the chat or send me or Justin or Skids a message, and we'll get you in. So we'll leave that there, and I'll probably jump onto the issue of determinism again at some other time. Would love to have that debate that you were on about. That'll be absolutely brilliant. Right. So anyway, remember, ignorance is never bliss, and I'll catch you for the next episode.